Hello, 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 and welcome back to another episode of the Laughatpat podcast, #Patchats. Today's guest is Stephan Schieber, and I met Stephan at an open mic here in Berlin. I believe it was the Laughing Sprees open mic, and we just had a good time kind of talking a little bit about comedy, and he's from Guatemala, a country that I was lucky enough to visit and get to experience a little bit of its, intense beauty. And so we talked a little bit about that, and I invited him to come on the podcast. And this was back in the fall, back when things were still open. And unfortunately, when we were meant to do the podcast, I got coronavirus. So we had to cancel, and we had a series of unfortunate events that led to many more cancellations. But we finally did it. Stephan came over, and we got to talk a little bit about his experience growing up in Guatemala, his memories of kind of leaving the nest, leaving behind his parents, and moving to Berlin, and his first housing situation here in Berlin that was unique and had a few problems. We also ended up kind of having some fun rants about subjects I had no idea that we would talk about, like what we're looking for out of an airport and the different varietals of Berlin airport experience. And so this was a fun conversation. I really enjoyed talking to Stephan and hearing a little bit of his story and getting to talk with him. So without much further ado, let's get into the podcast. Here it is, my conversation with Stephan. Okay, so to start, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself? Where you're from and what your name is.
Right. So my name is Stephan Schieber. I am a guy. I don't really do much, but when it was happening, I used to be in comedy in Berlin. I believe that's how we met. And
That is.
I'm from Guatemala originally. I moved to Berlin about three and a half years ago.
And where did you grow up in Guatemala? Like, did you grow up in a city? Did you grow up in a town?
Yeah, I grew up in the capital city called Guatemala City.
A really original name.
Yeah, that's... although, funnily enough, it brought me to the idea of why... I don't know if you've ever encountered this, but sometimes people get really mad that you call the country of the United States of America by the name America.
I have encountered this, yeah.
So, thinking about it the way that, Guatemala City is a smaller part of a larger region called Guatemala that is also called Guatemala.
Yeah.
The same could apply to America. It could just be a country called America that is located in the continent of America.
Yeah. So what? I've actually been through Guatemala City once. I was riding the public bus through there. But what was your childhood like there? Because the area I was in seemed kind of dangerous and not like the type of place you're gonna let your child maybe just run around. Yeah.
My parents used to tell me that it was really a non-issue back in the day. They grew up in the 60s and 70s. Mm-hmm. No, in the 70s and 80s. And even though there was a civil war going on at the time, the streets of the capital city were pretty safe from what I've heard. I don't know, that's what they say. Maybe it was just their neighborhoods, but nowadays it's really not a place where you or I would say people who have lived in safe countries would let their kids go around and play but it's also not the case that no one is out on the street, right?
Yeah, of course.
It's just way likelier that you'll get robbed or, be the victim of some sort of crime.
So what did that mean for your childhood then? Like, did you and your friends, mostly have to like always meet at each other's houses? And
Yeah,
did
pretty
that keep
much.
you guys like more kind of indoors in a way?
There are a lot of opportunities to go and do shit outside, right? But it's always some private, like, summer school or whatever, where you go and you pay to get time in outdoor activities and shit. Uh, Sort of like a summer camp, but not quite as, like summer camp light.
Yeah.
You would describe it as just focused on a single activity like baseball or horseback riding or whatever. But
So did you do some of those also when you were like a kid
oh
growing up
yeah,
and stuff?
yeah, I did a bunch of sports. But the thing is, to answer your question, what it really does to a kid, and this is not the universal experience of kids in Guatemala, it's just what I went through, which is a particular, it's a very divided society with quite large contrast between socioeconomic groups or whatever.
Totally. Of course. Yeah.
I can only talk about what I know. And growing up like that, what it does to you is that you don't see the world as like a cohesive place that exists and you can go out of your door and go do some shit. But, you get in the car, you drive, you sit there for, an hour, and then you arrive at the place and you do the activity and then you drive back. And sort of a lot of the country is kind of closed off to people who grow up like that,
Yeah.
in their own mind. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And people are scared to go out and just walk on the street, but it's not a guarantee that you're going to get stabbed or whatever, it's
Of course. Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely is a very different experience from growing up here where you can just go to the woods or, walk around, do whatever.
Yeah. That if you decide you want to go grab a beer at 3 a.m, you could just walk down the street.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
mostly be fine.
Exactly. We would meet at each other's houses and have get-togethers and shit at like social clubs, and we would go to later on we would go to nightclubs and bars and shit like that. Yeah.
So what was your also like, because you mentioned your parents were saying, when they were growing up in Guatemala City in like the 70s and the 80s during the period of like civil war and whatnot, that it was kind of a bit safer. Was that something that they like kind of like lamented to you, that the way the city had changed, or how did they present it to you, I guess, like as a kid,
Right. Well, they always used to say, back in my day, we could just play on the street. We would just, but we can't let you do that now because there's kidnappers. And I don't know how prevalent kidnapping is in Guatemala. Maybe it's really prevalent, maybe not. But it is omnipresent in the minds of moms and just like, suburban moms, pretty much. If that's the image I'm trying to portray.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really weird to see. I had to do a lot of work to sort of stop seeing the world in a very compartmentalized way, because to me, it was just, the world existed like chapters, like places, you go from this place to the other place and there's nothing in between really. And I brought this up to my parents, and they were like, "Oh yeah, man, it was fucking fantastic back in the day." Oh, sorry, can I swear?
Yeah. Fuck shit, motherfucker. No,
So
please.
they were, yeah, you could say lamenting. They do feel badly for the country. Like,
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to hear you talk about that because I was thinking about it's like you were like playing. I'm not like a huge video game guy, but like the example I was thinking of is it's like you're playing that like a video game where it's like when you advance to the next level every time it goes through like a loading page.
Yeah, yeah,
And then
yeah.
you're at the next thing. And then all of a sudden you discover that there are like these open map games where you can just
Yeah.
be like, I could stop in any village along the way.
Exactly. It's exactly like the difference between a hub world game and an open world game, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, yeah, level select, and then you go to the place and you do the thing, but you don't really experience the journey because you're sitting in a car playing video games because you're a kid in 2005. You know, it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah. So like, was that, did you always think about, wanting to like leave and come somewhere else to pursue education, or how did that kind of start coming into your head?
I went to the German school in Guatemala,
Okay.
and we got a German high school diploma.
Oh, really?
So
Okay.
it was sort of like, expected that we would use that to go study in Germany. That's essentially what it is. It's a way for Germany to get talented young students from abroad into the German economy.
That's like, yeah, what an ingenious. It's almost like kind of insidious, but also in a way, it's like, I mean, you get a good education, they get
It's a
some
trade-off.
bright minds. Like, I don't know.
Well, like with everything, it's a trade-off,
Yeah.
It's definitely, it's better than them setting up mines to extract gold,
Yeah.
which, other people do.
Yeah. Or having the like secret government agency go in and like start to meddle with the politics, and
You're talking about the bananas, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, sorry.
Very interesting history there, but so I came to Berlin in 2015 because my former English teacher, she reached out to us and invited us to come check out Berlin and stay with her in her apartment. I'm not gonna say the address.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. You can swear, but let's not give out people's personal information.
yeah, man.
But so when you were going to the German school, so did you learn German?
Yeah, absolutely.
So can you like, are you pretty like some level of fluent in German?
Yeah, I speak German, but I don't like pulling it out when I'm not talking to German people. How can I?
Like in a situation.
That sounds really bad. I'm not too confident in my German skills, even though they are by all accounts sufficient.
Yeah.
I just don't feel like I'm the best ambassador for the German language.
Yeah. No one's the best ambassador for the German language.
Yeah, true.
But like, so then, were you speaking Spanish in your household growing up? Both Spanish and
German. Yeah.
And then, so were you? And then you also learned English in school, or was that also?
Right. I learned English by playing The Legend of Zelda.
Wait, really?
On my GameCube, yeah. I just couldn't get further if I didn't learn what the fucking thing was saying, you know? But yeah, no, then they put me in English courses to prepare me for the English that we were going to learn at school.
Okay. Was English kind of easy after I'm at like, because I've been going through the process the last few months of trying to learn German, and my head is just like, and so did English feel kind of like easy coming from that background of like German and Spanish, or was it just like any other language learning experience where it's frustrating and
English came pretty naturally to me because essentially it's German but easier.
yeah.
You know. So
I like that. That's English, German, but easier.
exactly. You know, you got a lot of linguistic evolution that led to that, and some French, which, you know,
Yeah.
you always gotta have some French. But the way I feel about the languages is, well, the ones that I speak, is that English is like a malleable putty. It's just really nice and easy to use, and I can be really creative with how I use the language, which is why I do comedy in English,
Yeah.
because it's very, very easy to manipulate the language into doing what you want it to do. German's like a monolithic, you know, it's like a castle that you have to approach really, really gently, and it's a bit intimidating just because of how rich the language is and how much shit you have to know.
Yeah.
And I read a lot in German.
Okay.
I like to, because it's just the vocabulary that they use in old books, especially. New books not so much, but like, you know, shit published in the past 2 centuries. It's really beautiful to read. You know, it's just really entertaining to see how they can't manipulate the language, but they can just allow the language to shine through in the way that they arrange the verbs and shit, you know, specifically.
Yeah. And is there also some of that because like in Germany sometimes like they put words together to kind of create new words and that would be, I wish my like German was on a level where I could appreciate something like that. Instead I'm just annoyed because I'm like, I only know one of these 3 words and I don't know how I'm supposed to understand what you were trying to say with this.
You know what bothers me about German sometimes is words that are pretty similar or like constructed with the same base root words, and they have completely different meanings.
Yeah.
You know, like einrichten would be to, you know, like set something up, and hinrichten was to execute someone. You know, so similar words, very different.
But if you get those confused, it could be a big problem.
Yeah. Oh man.
So then you're going to like the German school and everything, and your English teacher invites you to come visit Berlin. How old are you when that happens?
I think we were 17.
17.
It was a little group of us, yeah.
And was that the first time that you had been to, I'm guessing it was the first time you had been to Germany, but had you traveled much outside of that?
No, I had been to Germany on several occasions before.
Okay.
I came to school here, even for short periods of time. But
like with your parents and stuff. Yeah.
And one time without my parents. That was a really fun experience. Yeah, got to stay with a German family.
Oh, cool! Like an exchange kind of thing. Or?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And where was that?
The South.
The South.
I don't remember exactly what town it was, but it was.
But can you give out their address?
I remember the school. I can trace it back from the school.
Yeah. So you had been coming to Germany like throughout your years growing up and stuff.
Yeah. I spent a lot of time here, but that was the first time I had been to Berlin specifically. I think I was here once when I was a kid, but I didn't really pay attention, so I can't, you know.
Yeah. I
stayed in an apartment that looked pretty similar to this.
Yeah.
Other than that, I can't really say.
Okay. And so then you come back here when you're like 17, and what was that like a I mean, I don't know, I'm just because like what you described in Guatemala of like this very like you go to one place and then you come home, so then to come to a place like Germany where it's a bit more you have a bit more freedom. I guess I'm kind of wondering like what that experience was like for you.
I loved Berlin from the first time I saw it. Right, it was it's a really nice town. I think it's perfect for me because it's not really a city. It's just a really, really, really big town.
Yeah.
But holy shit, man, it took me like, I did not remember that Tempelhofer Feld was so, is that what it's called? The airport? Yeah, I didn't remember that it was so big.
Yeah, it was a functioning airport. It's
especially, I've only cycled across it like twice.
Okay,
and
yeah.
You always forget how long it is.
Yeah.
But
you're like, they could land a passenger jet on this thing.
Man, but it's such an imposing building. But anyway, yes, absolutely, the freedom of just being able to step out your door and go anywhere, and use the world as just a space to exist in, and not something you have to be scared of.
Yeah,
it's fantastic, man. That's like, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. Now, I'm not saying that moving out of Guatemala was the best thing that ever happened to me. Just specifically for the way I grew up and the way I lived my life in Guatemala, and what moving to a different city allowed me to do was to actually just step out and, become a person, basically. Like, just, God damn, I'm so bad at selling this.
Yeah. No, I totally understand what you said. I mean, I think the thing is that no matter where you're from, like, for example, like I grew up in a little town north of San Francisco. And then when I was like 18, 19, I moved and I went away to school. And then I moved to Seattle. And like, and that was, I mean, even though I didn't maybe have some of the same restrictions that you're talking about from growing up, that would in itself, anytime I think that you leave the nest, it's like a growing experience, and and like learning your new routine and your new city, and you find your new favorite place to get food and your favorite place to like go get a drink, and it's like no matter what the circumstances, that's a thrilling period of life, I think.
Exactly. It's more of a function of leaving the parents' house and striking out on your own. And definitely just trying to figure out how to maintain a household by yourself.
Yeah.
Right? That's definitely a big learning experience. When I came over, I lived in an apartment with 7 other people.
Oh, wow.
It was basically just I hate using this word, but it literally was basically an app where you pushed a button and it gave you a 3-month lease on an apartment, right?
Yeah.
And you would just show up, get the key, and go to the place.
And just keep your fingers crossed that it was like...
Well, it was a roof over my head, but it was also, as you can expect from anything with no vetting process, it was a complete wild bag of people, right?
Yeah.
So we had, like right next to my door, there was a lady from Ecuador.
Okay.
And she was really nice. She was the only girl at the time when I was living there, and she had the bigger bathroom because previously there were more girls, and that was the girls' bathroom, right?
Oh, yeah.
And the boys' bathroom was a prison shower. It was awful. In the worst state possible. So I befriended this girl, and she allowed me to use the girls' bathroom.
If I'm very, very clean, can I please?
Well, I had to take initiative to get the place cleaned up because some Portuguese airline worker, you know who you are.
Yeah, and shame on you.
He sent pictures of how dirty the apartment was to the company that owned the property, right? And up until that point, we had been just, dealing with it internally.
Yeah.
Also known as not dealing with it at all.
Yeah.
Just keeping it a secret.
Yeah.
But he snitched pretty much to the people, and they said, hey, don't get this clean or you'll have to pay 300 euros each for a cleaning service. And so I called everyone up and I said, well, all right, listen, we have to get this cleaned up. So either everyone puts in some work or everyone puts in some money so that I can get someone to clean it up. And they chose to put 10 euros in a jar every week so we could get some guy to clean the common areas.
So who were the other people? Like, was it mostly like international students?
It was mostly internationals. I won't say students because it was like, okay, from what I remember, it was a Russian kid who never tidied up his room and had Jesus Christ, dude, these people actually exist in Berlin. I feel bad, but whatever.
Yeah.
You know?
I have a whopping audience of like 100 subscribers. I don't think they're probably gonna find this, so we don't need to worry too much.
Hey, there's weird people around, you know. It's like,
yeah.
So he would never tidy up, and he had his girlfriend over all the time.
Yeah.
And the walls were paper thin, and I never heard a thing from that room. Like, I'm legitimately telling you, I know what you were thinking, and yes, you could hear it, but there was nothing going on in that room ever. Like, they were
just sitting in silence.
Yeah, they would. The way I imagine it, they would make garlic bread and just sit in silence and eat it. That's like, it's not even TV or anything, you know. Then there was a Turkish guy who had his Senegalese friend with him. They were sharing a room, even though that wasn't strictly allowed.
Yeah.
Then there was a Korean fellow who, like a adult man.
Okay.
And another Indian guy.
And what would you guys like hang out, or was
No.
it just like ships passing in the night?
Yeah,
kind of?
it was literally just like ships passing in the night. What an apt metaphor.
Yeah.
It did feel like a port more than a home. Like, 'cause
Yeah.
people were coming in and out every 3 months, you know?
Yeah.
And you could choose to stay longer, but the only people that really stayed the whole time I was there, like, he was there before I joined, and he was still there when I left, was the Russian kid.
Okay.
And I went back to that place a year or two later to get a voters registration thing for the EU election. And I saw him. He answered the door. He was still there after all those years. Yeah. It was all those years, like a year and a half.
Wait, so I maybe did just like a terrible job of interviewing you, but like, but you have like German citizenship somehow?
Yeah, that's correct. My dad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So your dad is German and your mom?
My mom is Guatemalan.
Okay.
Spanish, Italian. You know,
Yeah. And did they meet in Guatemala or?
Yeah. It's one of those weird stories of people meeting in the 20th century where shit was, they didn't have Tinder.
Yeah, there was no apps.
There was no apps, like, But in a way, it's quite similar to the way people meet with apps, because they met for like a month and then they decided to get married, and then my dad left for 2 years and then he came back and they got married.
Wait, so he like traveling in Guatemala and then they started a romance, or?
He's always been back and forth between Germany and Guatemala.
Okay.
So he was born and then he grew up in the other place. I don't quite remember what the order is. But he was working in Germany at the time. Or like he decided to get married and then he came over, met my mom, and then went back to get the money for the wedding and then came back. Yeah. And
so was he also doing the back and forth thing as you were growing up?
No. No.
Okay. So then once they got married, he was like, I live in Guatemala now. And
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
gotcha.
That was his, and he just set up a business there, and that's what he does.
Nice.
And my mom is, she is from Guatemala. She grew up, she's the one that tells me how the streets were safe.
Okay.
And she tells me all about her childhood playing in It's very characteristic when you've seen it. You've probably seen it, those grid streets
Yeah.
with the colorful houses.
Yeah,
you know.
totally.
That's her childhood pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what I was going to ask you was when you came over, I mean, you obviously, like, so now I understand a little better, like you had like your connection with Germany and you've been coming over, but still I feel like when you move to a new place, there's a level of homesickness or, culture shock.
Right.
I mean, Germany for me is not so different than the United States, but there's still moments where I go to the grocery store and there's like certain things they don't have, and I'm like,
Oh, like ranch sauce, ranch dressing.
yeah, oh,
I know exactly.
my man.
I have been wanting to get ranch legalized in Germany.
Yeah.
You ever see that Eric Andre bit?
Yeah, legalize ranch,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah. I'm
Bird
very
up.
passionate about that. Bird up.
So, but like, was there any of that for you coming over here, where like stuff that you really missed from Guatemala once you kind of like came over here to live permanently?
The thing is, when I moved to Berlin, I was just done with Guatemala for personal and sort of emotional reasons, right? That are
Okay.
It was like toward the ending of some large projects that I had undertaken, and then some romantic involvement that went sour, and
Yeah.
I was just like, all right, you know what? There's nothing left for me here, so I might as well go.
Yeah. And it was a like you kind of never looked back kind of thing.
No, I have. I've been there a couple of times. I just came back from a month-long visit, but just in the way that the culture exists right now, I'm only going to speak about the specific culture that I'm, my social circles and everything, all the people I know. I don't really like it all that much. Mm-hmm. And specifically, for example, dating is a nightmare over there. And it's a nightmare over here, and it's a nightmare everywhere, man. But,
dating is a nightmare. But why is it specifically over there? Is it because there are different like cultural expectations as far as like masculinity, femininity, that kind of stuff, or what?
Like, the thing is, it's just every culture has a courting ritual, right?
Yeah.
And the Guatemalan one is just quite aristocratic and can't really be yourself too much, again, specifically in this layer of
the world in which you exist.
Exactly. Yeah. And if I'm trying to describe it really in a short way, but what happens is that you have these behaviors that are expected, like unspoken rules that you're supposed to do, like, wait 3 days after you last talked to her before you text her, and then you have to do this and that. And it's sort of like Elizabethan court rituals, it's sort of tiresome, and I might be making a fool of myself here, because I don't know if that's the way it is here, but it just seems like a place where you can be yourself more, express yourself more openly, without sort of having the thought at the back of your head that you're being judged, I suppose. And I did talk to my mom about this, so I have a source, but it is quite a judgy culture, right?
Yeah.
the way I look at it is that people are very involved in other people's lives, whereas here it's not really the case, and you can argue that that's better or worse, you know, because if people are more involved, they're more likely to help each other out. But that also means that people are paying attention to what everyone else is doing.
Yeah, and that there's like the maybe the bad of that is that there's some gossip that's happening.
Oh, some doesn't even begin to describe.
There's pervasive gossiping.
Yeah.
But then also it's like if someone's grandma gets sick, it's like everybody brings a little something.
So how this specifically relates to dating is that a girl is always going to have that niggling doubt at the back of her mind, like, how is this going to make me look in front of everyone else? And guys more so, even, because it's less of a, you know, it's like you're splitting your energy between actually trying to communicate and create a bond with a person and the other half trying to put on a show for everyone. You know, and that's what's just like, I don't want to do that, you know, so I came over here.
Yeah. And is there also some, like, does it also go into some level of, I guess it's like people are also considering, like, what are my parents going to think
definitely,
when I bring this person home? Or
and everyone lives with their parents. So, like, you can't really have a relationship that's separate from what your parents think. You know, it's really sort of, it's still quite rigid in that way.
Yeah, I can imagine how that would be like stifling.
Stifling.
Also, as someone who has been told in a loving way by like friends who really love and appreciate me that like sometimes I'm not a great first impression. I'm more of a slow burn. They're like the third hangout, that's when I was like, this guy is awesome. But the first time we hung out, I thought you were kind of weird, dude. Like, so like if you have to have that, like, oh, this is my first impression with you, and also now the parents, and then they're gonna be in your ear afterwards about like, what was that joke that he made? That was weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. No, it's totally that. It's exactly how you're describing it.
Yeah. Well, so how was it then? You said you just got back from a month of being back there. How was it to be back there this time?
It was weird, man. This is the first time I've been back since the virus. And,
what virus?
Oh, you know, the flu virus.
Oh, yeah. I've heard that's pretty bad. Get your flu shot.
Get your flu shot. Yeah. Really up-to-date medical advice. That Spanish flu, that can really get a kicking out of your whooping cough.
Yeah. No, but so it was your first time. Obviously, I guess you probably, at least at first, were kind of stuck here with the travel restrictions.
Nah, man. It just goes. Like, to be completely honest with you, my parents arranged the whole thing, and they just sent me the tickets, and I was like, all right, I got to be here at this hour with these bags. That's my job. Right? Yeah. And, man, I'll just take a second to say that the new Berlin airport sucks.
Really?
Yeah, it sucks.
I haven't been yet.
It's bad. No, it's not good. I want to speak out against the mallification of airports, right? We're not going to the mall, so now they're forcing us to go through the mall. If you want to go fucking, you know, you want to fly anywhere, you have to go through a mall, you know? that's Tegel is so fucking good. It's
okay, but
perfect.
I was gonna just say, like, here's the thing. I don't like when they make you walk through the long mall of like candies and watches and makeups and stuff to get to your gates. On the other hand, the experience of being at Tegel is like the experience of being at like a Greyhound bus station or
it's
something.
So good. Yes, that's why it's so good.
If I'm there, now they make you get there like 7 hours early. I want like a coffee, maybe like a bagel or something, just something. Maybe I want a magazine. You know, I bring $20 and I think I'll get a stick and a half of gum from this. But, you know, I just like, there's got to be a middle ground because Tegel, I would not describe Tegel as awesome.
Listen, maybe I'm weird about this, but I love Tegel with all my heart. It's beautiful. You get to, like, there's no panic at Tegel ever, because you know your letter. You go to the place where the letter is, and then it's instantaneous to get from one gate to the other, right? It's just, we're at A24 and not A45. Fuck, let's walk 2 minutes, you know?
Okay, that's fair.
Whereas with what I'm speaking to is the interconnectedness of Tegel. It's just like a ring on top of a box, and you know.
Yeah, that's okay. That's a fair point. You don't have to take a train everywhere to get from one part of the airport to another.
But
and
Berlin-Brandenburg is an octopus. It has 4 corridors, and if you need to get from A50 whatever to B50, you're fucked. You have to walk through an entire city block and to get to your gate. Like, I mean, and also the signs are wrong all over the place. I have a picture. Maybe, I don't know if you can edit this video with
we're gonna throw this photo up now. Here it is. Actually, it's here.
This is a picture of a bathroom door without a door handle at the new Berlin airport that was built yesterday, pretty much. You know, it's already broken.
German engineering at its finest.
And it's just really funny to come from Guatemala and see this here.
Yeah.
Like, it's just natural, a door without a handle, of course. You know, handles are expensive, but here, you know. Yeah.
So you did not have a great experience at the new Berlin airport.
I mean, it was just all right, but comparatively to Tegel, which just fills my heart with joy every time I go there.
But here's one thing I thought was, I feel like it was done purposefully, and it bothers me a little. But you know, Tegel was still in the AB ticket route for like if you want taking the public transport, and the new airport is just into the sea.
Oh yeah.
So it's just a little way for them to be like you have to pay a little extra for the train ticket now.
So this makes me think 2 things. Either they're probably not going to really enforce that, or if they really have one guy whose job it is to just get in at the last station, just when it dips into the sea, to check everyone's tickets.
Everybody about to leave the city, like they're tourists. And
that happened to me once. Well, no, it didn't happen to me, but I got off before it entered the sea realm, and I got another ticket just for 2 stations into the sea area. And no, they should just get rid of that, man. What's out there? Really, what's beyond these beautiful buildings and
So you have not such a great experience at the new Berlin airport. You make it home for the first time. What was there? I mean, because we're here in Berlin now. It's April 19th, and fucking we're in.
Shit.
I just saw a meme today. We're in year 14 of 2 weeks to flatten the curve.
Oh yeah.
So what? I mean, but what is their procedure showing up there, and like, how does the country seem? Are things open?
Everything's open.
And is there like testing? What's the vaccination situation in Guatemala?
You know, they got them.
They got them.
I've heard really weird shit about the vaccination situation in Guatemala. I've heard my aunt got vaccinated recently. But someone was telling me that what they do is, you know, and you have to understand, poor country, corrupt officials, just corner cutting at every corner.
Yeah. There are no corners. It's a circle.
It's a circle. Yeah. Quite circular. And they told me that what they do sometimes is that they'll jab you with the needle, and then they just won't put the vaccine in your arm, the liquid.
Oh, because they can like save it somehow.
Yeah, then they can just, say, all right, one more vaccinated, and we still have our supply of vaccines.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. That might just be a rumor, but like shit like that, you can imagine how it happens.
Yeah, for sure.
Guatemala. But It's a very different experience from here, because here you see people just walking around on the street, chilling out like normal, no mask, but everything's closed.
Yeah.
And over there, everyone's all the time mask on, and they check your temperature when before you enter a store. Every store is open, but they just have a guy with a thermometer, and then you get disinfectant in your hands.
Yeah.
And that's it, and that's everything else is just normal.
So, but like, so to get back a little bit to you go to Guatemala, you see your grandma. How was it? Like, I mean, you hadn't been back in
like a year and a bit, man.
A year and a bit. Was that? I mean, did that take some time to get used to like being at your parents' house and stuff again, or do you slip right back into that?
No, I believe you always slip right back into that, like especially with family, because that's not even ingrained into your mind. That is what your mind is molded to be, right? So you go back there, it's like it's very easy to fall back into childlike behaviors, I observed.
Yeah, totally.
In my daily life, I'm not really, I mean, I do have anger issues, but I'm not like, I don't yell at people.
Yeah.
Ever. And I don't usually get mad. It's more of a seething sort of
It's a quiet anger, which is the scariest anger.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I'm like my partner is always like, she's like, when I start getting really quiet, she's like, oh God, you're mad. I'm like, no, I'm fine.
Yeah. But I used to yell at my dad a lot. We was just getting into screaming matches, like fucking kids and their dads, right?
Yeah.
And he always tried to teach me not to do that, right? But every time I go and I'm around him, it's just fall right back into that behavior. And this time I tried really, really hard not to do it, and it still happened.
Yeah.
So, but when you're conscious of it, you can actually start decreasing it. And we got somewhere. But
is it with him? Is it like a micromanaging of you that is annoying, or like what is it that causes the contention between you guys?
Well, I'd have to categorize it in two separate events. Like he'll either just be wrong about something.
Yeah.
No, I don't mean it like that, but we'll be talking about some sort of political or whatever. He's really into politics now, so that's what we talk about. And we'll just disagree on something, right? And that used to just fucking set me off.
Yeah.
I would go ballistic about just any disagreement, but now we can just talk about it like adults. But if he comes out with an attitude of it doesn't matter what you say about this topic, I won't change my mind. That sort of peeves me. Just in any general, as a general behavior, that peeves me. And he's got like 2 or 3 topics that are off limits, right?
Yeah.
And I can respect that, It's really more about the talking than what we're talking about anyway.
Of course.
So, and the other thing is when he treats me like a kid, and that's sort of like a loop.
It's not feeling heard. It's not like you're not really listening to the point I'm making.
Well, no, it's not even that, because it's not when we argue. It's just like any sort of behavior that, like fucking get your feet off the table. It's not, something like that.
Yeah.
That's a really bad example because you shouldn't put your feet on the table. But fucking, don't hold the tool like that. You're going to hurt yourself or something like that. It's like, I'm 22, right? So it is true that we're both falling into this sort of regressive or regression into a past behavior, because we've sort of become, I've grown and he's also grown, you know, he's what, fucking 61 now. And he, I can imagine in my head that he would also get taken back to when I was 12 or whatever, whenever he sees me now. And I think just being conscious of that and trying to avoid it is like, we can get along perfectly well. And I really like talking to him and everything.
Well, and I feel like I just know with like my own parents that I think some of those things like also are just like they just naturally progress with age, right?
Yeah.
You know, like as you both get older, those little traps and pitfalls you fall into just start to become easier to avoid.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, as you are already saying, has happened.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
So to kind of transition a little bit to talking about comedy, what was your first exposure to comedy growing up? Like, was it something you were watching on TV, online? Was it like a parent or somebody?
You know, I would have to say I didn't seek it out or anything. It's just like it was an advertisement that used to play on the radio, but there was this Spanish or Latin American comedian called Velorio.
Okay.
And his shit would just get played on the radio, right?
Like sketches or
no, it was stand up. It was proper
okay.
stand-up.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't recall anything, can't recall anything from that time, but that is the first time I heard about the concept of someone telling jokes.
Yeah.
As, you know, as an activity that you can do. And in all honesty, though, the exposure probably started with the internet.
Yeah.
And sort of just general, you know, people trying to be funny on the internet. And that started shaping my sense of humor before I found stand-up.
Yeah.
Right. And then I found some stand-up, and I had a few approaches. I feel like, you know, I think I saw Jimmy Carr on the internet, and then maybe Ricky Gervais. I was a big fan of the British comedians.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then that sort of took me down the British TV path, like panel shows and comedy sketches and shit like that, you know, Mitchell and Webb.
Yeah.
And
was there any, like, I'm always interested when I talk to people like who grew up in a different countries, like, you know, like in the States, right? Like there's, like I grew up watching like Saturday Night Live with my godparents, and then, you know, also Late Night with David Letterman, this kind of thing. I mean, also like the Chappelle Show came out when I was like 14, so that was like, you know, that changed the world at that age for me.
Yeah.
But in Guatemala, are there equivalents of like those type of shows, like a late night show or like sketch comedy that's like specifically Guatemalan?
I don't know. I know that there's imitations of American, like, you know, talk shows and Judge Judy and shit with a really unique twist, you know. But I did not grow up watching any local television. We had cable, and so it was I just came up with this way to describe it, that it was like looking at the party that was American television through like a hole in a fence.
Yeah.
You know, because it wasn't the same schedule, it wasn't the same programming, but we had, you know, I grew up watching Friends.
Yeah.
And Two and a Half Men.
Yeah.
And just, you know, sort of that band of primetime television around 2008, 2010.
Or like The American Office was that also
No, they never
that
played
was in
The
your-
Office down in
Okay.
Guatemala. We had, The Big Bang Theory, which is awful, and Chuck. I don't know if you
Oh,
remember
dude,
Chuck.
I loved Chuck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And Friends. Friends was a big one.
Yeah.
Dude, Friends was huge. It would get played all the time. Just all the time. No,
Yeah.
yeah. Never saw Frasier or damn. Trying really hard to remember watching TV on my couch when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And just
So you kind of you have some of these American comedy shows, and then you start getting into this British stand up and some of the
Right,
British
yeah.
shows, and how old are you then when you're getting into that stuff?
I would be 14.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where from there where do you go?
So from the British panel shows, I pick out a couple of comedians that I like, and I watch a little bit of their stand-up, whatever's available online. you know,
Yeah.
I don't really, but at this point, it's not really a main part of my consumption of entertainment, right?
Yeah.
And I don't quite remember. I think John Mulaney, I learned about him in high school still.
Yeah.
Before I came over. Dave Chappelle, obviously.
Yeah.
Fucking one of the greats.
Yeah.
And then I discovered Louis C.K. And that was
Oh,
sort of
yeah.
so this is how it's done. you know,
Yeah.
right? And then from there, I got really into stand-up because I met a fellow comedian, Šarūnas Girdauskas from Lithuania.
Okay.
He is
Here in
also,
Berlin?
Here in Berlin. He was
Yeah.
also around, the comedy scene this whole time.
And so did you meet him before you found out about the kind of English comedy scene in Berlin?
No,
or?
yeah, I just met him one day, at a bar, and
Oh, no way.
Yeah, we were just chilling. I was in the habit of walking up to people and getting in their business,
Yeah.
just trying to make friends.
Yeah.
And
It's a good city to do that, actually,
oh,
I think.
it was absolutely the easiest place to do that was Belushi's,
Okay.
which is next to Cosmic Comedy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And it's just because, it's a hostel bar. So
Yeah.
everyone's trying to meet new people.
Yeah.
right? And so I met him there, and he was like, oh, yeah. He left then for a while. And then when he came back, he hit me up like, do you want to go to a comedy show? I was like, sure, yeah. So we went to a bunch of them.
What was the first comedy show you went to here?
Man, I cannot lie. I have to remember. It would have been, I think, Comedy Rebellion at
Okay.
Chapel Bar
Yeah.
off of Ostkreuz.
Okay. Yeah. I think I know this one.
Yeah. It used to be run by, oh God, Perry something. Was he New Zealander, Australian?
I don't know.
Oh God.
But so you
this is embarrassing, but yeah, it used to be run by him and Saeed Green, or maybe I saw Saeed the first time there, and it was Sunny Man. Man, it's so hard to keep track of all these people after I haven't seen them for a year.
Yeah.
But
what was that like when you went that first time? Did you because I mean, comedy is one of those things that it is there's a really different energy to it.
Oh yeah.
Live. I mean,
Yeah.
So did that were you just did you fall in love from that moment? And when did you start thinking about I want to try to perform?
To me, it's like baseball, you just have to see it once live, and you're hooked. You know?
Yeah, that's a great analogy, actually.
Yeah.
That is a really good analogy. Yeah.
I went to a baseball game in New York City. Saw the Mets.
Nice.
I think they were playing the Cardinals or whatever. I don't know if they even play together. But anyway, so when you're there, it's not even just the performance. It's the whole energy of the room, like you said.
It's the sounds, the smells, the
being drunk.
Yeah.
And I liked it, man. And this guy was he was starting out at that time. He was starting out performing. Right?
Your friend.
Yeah, sure it is. And he encouraged me to, like, you know, we sort of just got in the habit of bouncing jokes off of each other.
Yeah.
And he would run his material through with me, and he said, "Hey man, you should give it a shot," you know. And then I did. My first show was at Frickin' Friday comedy show.
Okay, nice. With
at
Mark.
the formerly Kiki Soul bar, now known as La Minga.
Yeah.
With Mark, yeah, exactly. It was fantastic. I sucked, but I got just enough laughs that it was like, you know, it pushed me into the positive side of the self-reinforcing pathway. I just went for it, you know, slowly at first, but it only took like 2 or 3 shows for me to develop the style that I kept, you know, and I still use some jokes from that first show, you know. So it's, man, I can say so many great things about the Berlin stand-up scene.
Yeah.
As I'm sure you know, it's.
Yeah, I mean, also for me, like, because I had done stand-up off and on a couple times in San Francisco, and then I came here, and it's just like, I don't know, the rooms were all like really good. There was like, you know, audiences. I felt like I connected with the comedians more and was more interested in what they were saying. So yeah, I cannot say enough good stuff as well.
Right.
And it's broken my heart. Like, my hope coming here this year was, I was like, you know, when I first arrived, when I met you in the fall, I was like, I'm so excited to just like really do a bunch of stand up this year. And
yeah, man.
But we don't need to dwell on the negative. But so what's your kind of creative process? Do you just kind of like jot stuff down when inspiration strikes? Do you what is your process like when you're trying to like write a joke or a bit or something?
The way it worked back then was I would go to stand-up shows and just sort of listen. And if I heard an interesting premise, I would write it down. And then if I then thought of another punchline immediately in my head, I was like, all right, you know, that's a joke. Because, I mean, sounds like I'm stealing premises, but...
Well, I mean, a lot of premises are pretty like
it's just shit
general.
that happens in your life, you know. You just have to live, and then you'll know that things happen. And if something you see can get you thinking about an experience you had in your life that can make it into a punchline, then I don't think it matters whether it's, you know, TV or stand-up or whatever, a smell that reminded you of some experience that you had.
Totally.
But I just, like, more than premises, it's just like the energy of being in a stand-up crowd and just listening to the craft, you know, you could say, is really a catalyst to get ideas flowing. You know, you can just you're in a funny mood, you're thinking of funny things, you're hearing funny premises, so naturally it's easier to come up with some funny turn of phrase or a punchline that you can use.
It gets you in that like mindset.
Exactly. It's the same mindset now that I get when I just talk to my friends and we're laughing about something, and then, you know, if there's already laughter there, then all you need to do is find a way of putting it into words that then communicate the same feeling. When you tell them, and that's, you know, not trivial. That's not like obvious. There's no obvious way to do that, but Uh, I would say that the way that I think of jokes is I go out and I have experiences, I live through things, and then I come, I talk about it with someone, and out of that, come it synthesizes
Like some seeds of inspiration, and yeah.
it just I write the joke in the act of talking to people, because if I say something and it's funny, not to say that just talking funny and being the funny guy among your friends is that's what makes a great stand-up.
Yeah, but I mean, you can get ideas sometimes where it's like you're riffing with your friend, and then you realize oh, actually, this could be if I think about this and work on this a little bit,
exactly.
This could be a bit.
Exactly. Because the way we process information is through language, right?
Yeah.
So it's way easier to learn something if you have to explain it to someone else, right? And the most important part is having shit to talk about, right? And then you go through this process of working it out in your mind in whichever way that suits you. To me, it's dialogue and conversation. And then it's just like a natural byproduct of it. The words are going to come out that you're going to use to build those jokes, right?
Yeah.
So because with jokes, it's really specifically about the turn of phrase to me, right? Mm-hmm. It's because some people tell stories, some people do voices or whatever, and then other people everything has to be backed up by solid writing.
Yeah.
Right? And what makes writing solid is specifically the words that you choose and the order that you put them in. Right?
Yeah.
So,
and that economy of words as well, that I think that's the thing I've been missing now in the pandemic is one, I realized it's I kind of need the pressure of that I know I'm going up to make me really try to think about stuff. But two, it's I always think of them in a way too long of a form, and then I'll try it and I realize oh, this 30-second thing I thought is actually 10 seconds or one line or whatever is actually the only part that works there.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to process it with other people, right? Because then you can get immediate feedback on whether the feeling gets communicated or not, and it's easy to, when you're looking at your own writing, it's easy to feel like the idea has been communicated well enough, because you can understand the meaning of what you were thinking back through your own words, right? But that doesn't mean that it's going to evoke the same feeling in someone who's hearing it for the first time, right? And you have to think about that a lot. You have to think about, you don't have to. Yeah. you could just tell jokes. I don't really think about it at all. But what you're really trying to get at with comedy is evoking a feeling, right? And to get that, you need to examine exactly what each part of the sentences that you're saying makes, what feelings it awakens in people or whatever, if you have a really long story, it builds anticipation, right? So you can use that as a tool, right? And then you can have payoff at the end. And if the payoff is proportional to the anticipation, then you get a good response. Right? If it's not, then you get frustration because and you can use all of these techniques to manipulate language in a way that makes people feel something to create the catharsis of laughter, right? So, tension and release, or surprise, whatever. I read a book about this, that's why. Yeah. I read Jimmy Carr's something history of stand-up, whatever, I don't know.
Yeah. No, I feel like I read one of these books also too when I was when I first started the first time back when I was 22.
Yeah.
But yeah, Well, so before my camera dies, we should start to wrap things up. But the two things that I've been trying to end with is, do you have a story of like the worst job that you ever had?
Oh man.
And if that puts you on the spot too much, we could also talk if you have a memory of like a time that you laughed like the hardest in your life.
Man, all right, I'll try to do both. Worst job, I haven't had that many jobs, really. All of them have been all right. I don't really want to complain about it because, I mean, it wasn't really that bad. It was just boring. But, okay, it would either go to the summer I spent filing setting up a filing system for a supermarket, working in a closet,
Oh no.
It was like
yeah.
a tiny little 2 meter by 1 meter space with a shaft, like a ventilation shaft coming up the side. So I was literally sitting in a little cranny with my computer, and the job consisted of going around the store and picking up items and then just logging them into the thing with the right description this time.
Oh yeah.
Because they were all inconsistent and shit.
Yeah.
And the guy that worked next to me was literally Peter Griffin.
Really?
Big guy, white shirt, glasses, just sitting there,
Yeah.
So I was quite literally,
just
boxed
doing
in.
like some kind of mind-numbing filing,
Just
like
using
data entry.
30-year-old software to put punch codes into labels.
Yeah.
But that was just a month and the hours weren't that bad. And then I worked at a pharmaceuticals factory.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it was just boring, man. I had to make sure that all of the production logs were, fully signed and whatever. And each batch of medicine has a production log. And so I would just have to fucking chase people around the factory asking for signatures like, hey, what time did you get this done?
Yeah.
And you had to change your scrubs every time you went to a different area of the factory.
Oh, shit.
So it's just boring, man.
And also probably I'm imagining people are people are sometimes kind of annoyed. Like, I don't know what time I finished.
Exactly. Like, I don't fucking know, but...
Let's just say 2 p.m. Like...
Yeah. And Jesus Christ, I cannot imagine still working at that place. Like, it's just, and what was frustrating about this, the reason why it wasn't a bad experience, like by itself, just the working there, but the feeling that it was a slightly off machine that I could never fix.
Yeah.
It's just frustrating, right? Because they even asked me to do shit that I could come up with better ways of doing myself, and they didn't. They just said, no, just do it the old way.
Yeah, they're like, nah, we're happy with the inefficiency.
Yeah,
no
just
problem.
whatever, like we're constantly backed up and our paperwork's fucking lost, but whatever.
Yeah.
The time I laughed the hardest, man. This must have been... Shit. You ever laugh so hard that your lungs just completely compress and there's no air in there?
Yeah, you're like, it's like you almost feel like sick to your stomach because you can't breathe.
Yeah. I can't remember specifically when it was, but it must have been when I was a teenager and we were just hanging out being completely out of our fucking gourds and hormones and neurotransmitters. It's like there's really no better drug than being 13.
That's so fucking good.
And there's no drug like sleep deprivation.
Yeah.
You want to see some shit,
Yeah.
But yeah, man, just being a kid, just being a kid and not thinking about anything but like yourself, you know, honestly, because fucking when you're an adult, you have to be thinking about shit that you don't want to be thinking about, you know, all the time.
Yeah.
And that's fine, but it doesn't quite, you know, when you have happiness as an adult, it's like really mellow and shit, whatever, you know. But when you're a kid, it's just absolutely full blast fucking feeling whatever feeling that you're experiencing right now. It's like, you know, I don't know if you know a lot about the neurochemistry of drugs and what weed or psilocybin does to your brain.
No.
So essentially,
I've done some field work, but
yeah, no theory yet. Well, you know, can't blame you. But and I'm not a neuroscientist. I don't know.
Yeah.
But essentially what it does is just opens floodgates of the amount of shit that you can process at one time.
Yeah.
And the intensity of experience is a lot higher because you're literally experiencing the sensory information that's coming through your organs in your brain with a lot more energy behind it. You know, it's just a fuller experience. And that's what being a kid is like, you know. Everything you feel, it's the most that you felt in your entire life, you know. It's the happiest you felt, it's the saddest you felt. It's
true. You just feel everything like super deeply.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I still remember hanging around with my friends, playing. Sometimes we would play video games, other times we would just, you know, dick around, and you know, we started drinking at some point, but it was always just like a really, really animalistic sort of raw feeling of emotions, right? Because you're just laughing like hyenas, and then someone gets angry when you're drinking, and that's just, you know, full unbridled anger.
Yeah.
It's and all this shit happened inside houses, so we couldn't really go outside. There was a lot of pent up energy.
Yeah. That's a good answer, because I also have some of those memories of that, like, exactly what you're talking about, where it's like fucking so much extreme joy from playing wiffle ball in somebody's yard that turns into like a real contentious fight, because you're like, that was a strike. No, it wasn't. Awesome, man. This was super fun. Do you have anything else that you want to add before we wrap it up? Or
well, man, I'd like to do it again, honestly.
Hell yeah, we can do that when I come back. We can do round 2.
Hell yeah, man. All right,
dude, thank you so much for coming on. This was awesome.
Thank you for inviting me, man. I love doing all sorts of podcasts and shit. Just love getting asked questions, you know.
Yeah.
Everyone loves talking about themselves.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
Cool.